In this video, I'm going to explain what the people are doing wrong who lift weights or work out, but nobody ever notices. I'm going to explain to you why it is that some people just don't look like they work out. The reason why I'm doing this video is, I don't know what made me think of it, but there was a time years and years ago when I was in the Army, and we did PT in the pool. We did like drown proofing or something, you know, where you jump into the pool, we swim with weapons, we swim with our clothes on, with our boots on and stuff like that. And I remember at one point we were standing around there just in like our shorts, and there's this guy, you know, he's like, dude, I need to work out more. And he was a friend of mine, okay? I know he worked out because we worked out together sometimes. A lot of times we were just in the gym at the same time. I've known a lot of people who did steroids, but the only time I've ever seen steroids in person were when I was at this guy's place in housing, where you know, he was showing me, he hid them in his sock drawer from his wife, so he pulled them out and he's showing me them on his dining room table, like, oh yeah, you know, you do one vial this week and then this week and then, you know, then you taper off here. And he actually showed me, you know, how he did his little cycle of Decadurabolin. So I know this guy worked out, okay, consistently. And it was true. He didn't look like he worked out. Okay, there were a couple other guys there that looked like they were in pretty good shape. They were really athletic. And I remember one of them heard him say that. He's like, man, I don't work out at all. I just do Army PT. And if they didn't make me do it, I wouldn't do that either. So why is it that one guy who just does Army PT every once in a while, or, you know, every time, you know, every day because they make him, and another guy who does Army PT every day, and he, you know, drinks all the weight gainers, and he works out on his own with weights every single day, and he takes steroids, he doesn't look like he works out? Well, let me tell you, he was kind of chubby, okay? He wasn't fat, but he wasn't cut. He certainly wasn't ripped, and he was by no means shredded. Now, the very first unit I was in, okay, when I got into the Army, I already had a black belt in Hapkido, and there's a guy I used to hang out with. He was like a Korean American. He was a black belt in Taekwondo. So the two of us would hang out sometimes, and we'd practice, you know, kicking mostly. And this guy was ripped to shreds. He was like the stereotypical Asian guy who, you know, just naturally, he didn't really work out. He did, you know, Army PT, he did his, you know, Taekwondo training, but he didn't really lift weights or anything, but he was shredded because just somehow genetically, he had extremely low body fat percentage. Didn't work out, but he looked like he worked out, okay? The only difference is the body fat percentage. I mean, and this guy, this Korean guy, was really, really skinny, but like I said, he had that Bruce Lee look to him. So, once again, I just want to say, if you are working out constantly and nobody notices it, okay, you're not getting any appreciation, you don't look like you're working out, work on your diet, okay? What I always say is you want to feed yourself just barely enough to fuel your workouts, barely enough to rebuild your muscles after your workouts, okay? And a little bit more so you can gain, but you don't want to eat as though it's a hobby. You don't want to eat as though it's a competition. Like I said, the guy that I knew, you know, who was a little bit chubby, that was back in the days, you know, in the 90s when, you know, Weight Gainer 2000 was out and Weight Gainer 4000 was out, and it was just big numbers and how many calories can you take in, you know, and you cannot force your muscles, okay, to grow by feeding them more. You just cannot. So, you know, like I said, what you want to do is you want to just barely feed yourself enough to fuel your workouts and to repair your muscles afterwards so they can come back stronger. But other than that, though, you don't want to have anything unnecessary in your diet, especially carbohydrates. And going back to the 90s, you know, back then, those high numbers from those weight gainers, they were basically just some kind of a cheap protein and a whole lot of sugar, okay, which they, of course, called carbohydrates. Okay, it was basically just pure sugar to give you a whole lot of calories. And like I said, that's why a lot of people were getting fat off of them. They were gaining weight, but not exactly the right kind. Now, imagine if this guy who did steroids, lifted weights, and everything were to take care of his diet, okay, and lose some of the fat. He'd be in awesome shape because he was very strong and his muscles were very well developed. But like I said, they're covered by fat, so nobody could tell that he worked out. Imagine this other guy who already looks good just because he's very lean were to go ahead and, while maintaining his leanness, was to slowly increase his his protein, his fat intake, okay, start lifting weights or start doing hard body weight exercises, and he were to go ahead and maintain his leanness, but at the same time build up some more muscle. Okay, it would be extremely impressive in a very short amount of time. So like I said, that's the first thing that I recommend you do if you really want your appearance to improve, is to go ahead and get lean. Okay, build muscle if you could, maintain muscle for sure, but like I said, get lean first, and then you'll certainly look like you're working out, and then after that, slowly increase your muscle mass without gaining any unnecessary fat.